For days before the opening whistle, the 2026 FIFA World Cup sits in a strange place. The trophy is polished. The schedules are printed. The squads are confirmed, and the Estadio Azteca, perhaps the most storied football ground on earth, is readying itself for another chapter. By every outward measure, this tournament is prepared. But the World Cup arriving on June 11th carries something with it that no edition in recent memory has carried. A weight of controversy that has nothing to do with football and everything to do with what football has become. This was supposed to be the straightforward one. 3 host nations, 48 teams, 104 matches, the biggest World Cup ever staged. Instead, it arrives as the most politically charged, logistically contested, and publicly debated tournament of this generation. Not because the football won't be extraordinary. It will be, but because the world surrounding it has forced a conversation that football's governing structures were never designed to have. Begin with Iran. Because Iran's situation is genuinely without parallel in the modern history of this competition. Iran earned their place here the way every team earns their place. They played qualifying matches. Mehdi Taremi scored the goals. They finished the job in March 2025, securing their 7th World Cup appearance and their 4th consecutive one. The process was clean. The qualification was legitimate. Then, in late February of this year, a conflict erupted that reshaped everything. Iran's supreme leader was killed. Within days, the country's sports minister appeared on state television and delivered a statement that the football world had to read twice to fully absorb. His words were unambiguous. Participation in the World Cup was impossible under any circumstances. FIFA's response was swift and unyielding. Gianni Infantino, speaking at the FIFA Congress in Vancouver in late April, opened his address by immediately confirming Iran's participation. The phrasing deliberate, the tone carrying the exhaustion of someone who had been making the same argument for 2 months to an audience that kept questioning it. Across those 2 months, Iran's Football Federation had assembled a 10-point list of conditions. Guaranteed entry visas for full squad and staff, with specific concerns raised about Taremi and Captain Ehsan Safi, whose military service records created complications under American immigration law. They requested their national anthem be played without alteration, their flag displayed with respect, and their delegation provided with documented security guarantees from the airport through to their hotels and training facilities. They asked for their group stage fixtures to be moved from the United States to Mexico entirely. FIFA declined that request. What followed was weeks of negotiation over their base camp. Tucson, Arizona had been planned and approved months in advance. That arrangement collapsed. And then just days ago, a resolution emerged that produced a logistical arrangement the World Cup has never seen before. Iran will not be based in the United States at all. The United States government declined to permit the Iranian squad to reside overnight on American soil. Through an arrangement involving the Iranian Federation, FIFA, and the Office of Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, Iran will base their entire tournament operation in Tijuana, the Mexican border city that sits directly across from San Diego, California. The mechanics of this are worth letting sink in. Iran will cross an international border before and after each of their 3 group stage matches. They play at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles on June 15th against New Zealand and on June 21st against Belgium. Then they travel north to Seattle for their final group fixture against Egypt on June 26th. After each match, they return to Mexico. The Federation president noted that Iran air flights may be used to move the squad between American cities, meaning Iran's national carrier could be operating domestic legs inside the United States as part of a World Cup squad itinerary. There is no precedent for this at any major football tournament anywhere. Infantino flew to Antalya, Turkey, where he watched Iran's 5-0 warm-up victory over Costa Rica from the stands. His presence there wasn't accidental. The FIFA president attending a pre-tournament friendly tells you exactly how carefully this relationship has been managed and how much pressure sat behind every element of Iran's participation. As of today, they are going. Their base is in Tijuana. Their travel plan is filed. Their itinerary is confirmed. Whether the conditions required to get them there reflect, well, on anyone is a separate question. The fact of their attendance is settled. The European conversation unfolded differently but came from the same underlying source of discomfort, The Netherlands moved first and moved loudest. A formal petition, carrying 174,000 signatures, was submitted to the Dutch parliament requesting that the national team withdraw from the tournament. That isn't a protest outside a stadium. That's nearly 200,000 citizens engaging with a democratic institution over a sporting decision. The KNVB, the Dutch Football Association, responded with words chosen extremely carefully. Their president said there would be no boycott, and then added 2 words that changed the character of the statement entirely. So far, that qualifier did considerable work. It wasn't closure. It was a door left open. Germany conducted the same debate at a level that made it impossible to characterize as fringe. Oketlik, a sitting vice president of the DFB, one of European football's most significant institutions, told a Hamburg newspaper that a boycott warranted serious consideration. He drew a comparison to the 1980 Moscow Olympics. He named the FIFA president. He asked publicly where the threshold was. The DFB executive held a formal meeting, deliberated, and issued a statement on January 31st, confirming Germany's participation. The fact that a written statement from a governing body was required to resolve that question tells you the question was serious. Sepp Blatter, the former FIFA president, made his position unambiguous in late January. He advised everyone to avoid the United States. Mark Pieth, the Swiss anti-corruption legal expert who had worked on FIFA's own governance reform processes under Blatter, gave an interview to a Swiss newspaper recommending that supporters stay home. These were not anonymous voices or partisan commentators. These were people with institutional histories inside the game, speaking plainly about their conclusions. Spain and France had their discussions. Belgium's Football Association said it was focused on football while monitoring the situation. Denmark, whose territory of Greenland had been at the center of one of this year's more sensitive international arguments, found itself geographically and diplomatically closer to the tournament's fault lines than almost any other European country. And when the accounting was finally done, every federation that qualified for this World Cup is sending their team. Not one withdrew. The architecture of FIFA's governance makes that outcome almost structurally inevitable. Withdrawal carries consequences codified in the statutes. Financial penalties, suspensions from future competitions, potential expulsion. No federation, regardless of how deeply engaged with the internal debate, was going to absorb those consequences. But the absence of withdrawal doesn't mean the conversations were trivial. It may mean the opposite, because what happened across Europe over the past several months wasn't a failed boycott movement. It was something more significant and more durable, a formal reckoning with what it means for a governing body to award a tournament, what obligations fall on a host nation, and what values football actually holds when tested against political and diplomatic reality. The fan dimension of this story is in some respects the most honest indicator of where things actually stand. A Facebook group dedicated to boycotting the tournament has accumulated more than 25,000 members. Social media campaigns carrying the same message ran consistently across platforms for months. Blatter and Pieth both gave their public endorsements to fan-level abstention, and the data, where it exists, suggests that some portion of the intended audience for this World Cup has made a quiet decision not to attend. Transatlantic airline bookings from Europe to the United States for the tournament period are running 14% below the same window last year, in a year when a weaker dollar makes the journey less expensive than it was, meaning the decline represents something other than cost sensitivity. Hotel occupancy projections across American host cities are underperforming. A survey by the American Hotel and Lodging Association found that nearly 62% of New York City hotel operators reported World Cup bookings coming in softer than their forecast predicted. Seattle had projected international visitor arrivals running 17% above normal. It isn't tracking at that number. The secondary ticket market has reflected all of this. Average resale prices for group stage matches fell by 23% in the single month between April 20th and May 20th. Of 91 fixtures staged in the United States and Canada, 87 have seen their entry price fall over the past 4 weeks. Prices were set at a level calibrated to a version of demand that the actual audience for this tournament, in these actual conditions, hasn't produced. The market is finding its way toward where real supply meets real interest. The pricing conversation has been its own distinct strand within all of this. Football supporters Europe described FIFA's ticketing structure as a fundamental betrayal of the fans who make the game what it is. Members of the United States Congress wrote formally to FIFA asking that attendance be made financially accessible. New York's mayor negotiated directly with Infantino and obtained 1,000 tickets priced at $50 for local residents. A meaningful political gesture, the 1,000 tickets in a city of 8 million is mathematically a very small gesture. FIFA defended its market rate approach. The organization pointed to its FIFA Pass visa system, its supporter tier of discounted tickets available through national associations, and its ongoing engagement with affected federations. The Secretary General personally traveled to Istanbul to meet with Iranian football leadership. On some fronts, the organization moved quickly, on others more slowly. Whether its cumulative response was adequate, whether it deployed its institutional power with sufficient urgency and in the right directions, those assessments will be made over years, not days. Here's what deserves equal attention, though, because it has received considerably less than the controversy surrounding it. The football itself is extraordinary. France entered ranked first in the world, with Kylian Mbappe standing 4 goals away from breaking Thierry Henry's all-time national scoring record. Didier Deschamps is managing the tournament that will define his legacy. Argentina return as defending champions with Lionel Messi at 38. Carrying an injury situation his federation has been conspicuously quiet about in recent days. Brazil have appointed Carlo Ancelotti, and alongside Vinicius Jr. and a 34-year-old Neymar, they carry a generation's worth of unfulfilled expectation to the pitch. Spain, European champions, present the most cohesive tactical unit in the tournament. England arrived with a squad of real depth, carrying 6 decades of absence from the top of the world game. Norway are back at a World Cup for the first time in 28 years, with Erling Haaland having scored 16 goals across 8 qualifying matches. Having never yet appeared at the tournament his talent was built for. Morocco, who remade the possible for African football 3 years ago in Qatar, returned with something different now: expectation. 48 nations, 104 matches across 39 days, 3 countries and 16 cities. Some of those cities, Mexico City, Guadalajara, Vancouver, Toronto, will deliver atmospheres that will remind the world why this specific sport travels across every cultural and geographical line that exists. The resistance to this tournament has been genuine, documented, and in specific cases historically significant. A national team operating out of a foreign country and crossing an international border for every match they play is a sentence that has never been written about a World Cup before. A European Parliament formally deliberating on whether its national team should attend is a conversation that football historians will cite. A 23% drop in secondary market prices and softening hotel bookings in tournament host cities are real numbers with real implications. The figures around a $6,900 supporter package, a $38,000 final ticket, and a $150 domestic train journey will not disappear from a record. They will inform whatever review FIFA conducts once the tournament closes. But 14 days from now, something will happen. In Mexico City, in the Estadio Azteca, where Pelé lifted the trophy in 1970 and Diego Maradona produced the most celebrated individual goal ever scored in 1986, a referee will signal the start. 87,000 people will be present for that moment. The football will begin, and football, when it actually begins, occupies a space that almost nothing else can reach. The question we're sitting with right now, on May 28, 2026, is this: do you arrive at this World Cup carrying the same feeling you've carried every edition before it? Or has something shifted? Not dramatically, not entirely, but enough to notice? A small reservation. A question that didn't used to be there. And if the football does what football tends to do when it finally starts, do you think that feeling fades? Or does it stay somewhere underneath, waiting to resurface after the final whistle in July?